lonely loser with a dead-end job dies of heart attack and gets reincarnated as the son of a noble with godlike powers. Ars was an average ugly loser living in Japan and working at a boring job when one day, while returning back, he ends up having a heart attack and dies immediately. The next moment he opens his eyes to find himself in a completely different world as he looks at the face of a beautiful woman as he lays on a bed. At first he thought he was in a hospital, but then he notices a flying dog wandering around the room, while a maid walks up to congratulate the blondie, and that's when Ars notices in the reflection that he has been reincarnated as a child in an alternate world. 3 years pass by without any issue as he learns how to read and write, gaining an incredible amount of knowledge about this world. He learns that the kingdom where they live is called the Summerforth Kingdom, which used to be divided into 7 different kingdoms, before one of them waged war and captured the continent. Inside of the kingdom, he was born in the family of a noble lord of a small village town called Lamberg. He also learns that magic is practiced in this world, which excites him the most. But learning magic remains a dream for him because of his young age. His life is very luxurious as he lives in a huge house, has several servants who always take care of all his needs, while the in-house chef cooks tasty meals every single day. Another thing that is different about him is that he seems to have an ability which no one knows about. To test it, he goes down to the training hall where all the household guards and people with the ambition to join the ranks of soldiers come to train. Everyone seems very happy to see him as he sits down when he spots a man getting his ass handed to him while trying to learn how to fight with a spear. Ars uses his special ability, which shows him the stats of any person he wants. He notices that the guy has D rank abilities with a spear and a sword, but he seems to have a B rank in archery. He immediately runs up to him and asks him whether he has ever tired using a bow and an arrow, which the guy doesn't take seriously and laughs it off, as he thinks archery is for cowards and women. Ars tells him that he should definitely try using a bow and arrow once, and the guy would have refused to even try it out. But because Ars was the future lord, he decides to follow his command and picks up a bow as everyone watches. He shoots the arrow, and to everyone's surprise, the arrow hits the mark dead center in the very first try. Everyone thinks that it was a fluke, so the guy starts shooting arrow after arrow, only to see that all of his shots are hitting the mark, making him realize his natural talent in archery. He thanks Ars, while everyone starts asking him how he knew this loser would be good at archery, but Ars doesn't want to reveal his powers, and claims that it's just instincts. The only problem with this skill is that he can't seem to see his own stats, which saddens him a little, but he moves on back into the house. Later at the dinner table, he sits down across from his scary-looking dad, and checks his stats only to see that he has a rank abilities across the board, and he is strong enough to defeat 10 B rank swordsmen all on his own at once. Daddy asks whether he told the loser to try archery. Ars honestly replies that he did, and his dad simply tells him that it is a good thing for a future lord to be able to distinguish between talented and untalented people. After that dinner conversation, Ars starts learning more about how people rule and learns how twisted and ruthless the real world could be. The rulers of the Summerforth Empire seem to be completely corrupt, while farmers and poor people are revolting all over the area because of poor living conditions, while the politicians are working against the people by using police brutality and other underhanded methods, which makes this world the same as America. He realizes that if this keeps happening, the entire continent will be wrapped in a civil war, and he will probably be forced to lead his forces into battle. This thought truly scares him, as he is not a warrior yet and doubts whether a person like him will be able to keep his family and the people of Lamberg safe and sound. The next morning, he sneaks out of the house and starts wandering through the streets of the village market. But even after wearing a cloak, people who easily recognize him as a woman start asking whether he is out shopping. Ars fat shames her, and moves on as he starts looking for people with extraordinary abilities using his magic eye. He tries in on a bunch of locals, only to find that they are all a bunch of useless losers with no future prospects. After some time, he sits down as his eyes start watering because of using the magic ability so much, when suddenly he hears a commotion. A door is flung open while a racist white woman throws a young man out on the streets, claiming that she has no work for the likes of him. He doesn't seem to have knowledge about this race, but notices that people are calling him a Malkin, and claiming that he is filthy and disgusting. He suddenly remembers reading about them in a book, which stated that these people belonged to a faraway continent and were purchased by the people of Summerforth as slaves. The young man simply sits on the ground hungry and defeated when Ars walks up to him and offers him a piece of bread. This surprises the man, who introduces himself as Rei, while the people standing nearby wonder why the future lord is trying to help a Malkin. At first Rei seems skeptical, but slowly takes the bread and starts hungrily eating it, while Ars uses his magic eye to check his stats. To his absolute surprise, this guy turns out to be a total baller, having multiple A and S rank skills, which reminds him of Lord Raven, his own powerful father, as he realizes that this guy is going to become one of the strongest people in this kingdom. His eyes start sparkling while Rei finds him creepy and starts walking away after thanking him. The future lord follows him into an alleyway, while Rei tells him to leave him alone. But Ars finally reveals that he is the son of Lord Lovent, and offers him a job as his bodyguard, bribing him by promising tasty food. Rei ends up agreeing, and they both head back to Ars's house, where they sit down across the dining table, as amazing dishes are presented in front of Ars, and he happily looks up at Rei, only to notice that the racist maid brought him an old plate with beans on it. She tells him that she can't serve a Malkin the same food as the future lord, and the butler tells him to get lost as soon as he is done with his food. Ars cannot believe the amount of racism in this country, but unlike a white American girl, he actually does something to solve the problem, and drags his chair beside Rei, and also offers him to eat together. The maid and the butler try to intervene, but Ars tells them to shut their mouth as Rei is his guest. The maid immediately serves them more good food, which Rei is more than happy to eat. After that, he reveals that he used to work in a band of mercenaries who raised him since he was a small boy. But in a recent battle, all of them died, leaving him alone in this cold, roofless world. Ars feels really bad for him and takes Rei into his father's chamber, telling him that he wants to hire this guy as his bodyguard. His racist father takes one look at Rei and denies permission, claiming that Malkins are good for nothing and have no real abilities. Ars stands up to his father and tells him that his instincts are saying that Rei has God-given talents that can't be matched by any average person in the entire continent. So his father agrees to give him a chance. He claims Rei will have to pass a test, which will be to defeat him in combat. Ars gets scared as his father is a total monster and one of the best swordsmen in the entire continent. He tries to say that it won't be a fair match, but his father disregards him and starts walking towards the training ground. He calls for a pair of wooden swords, while the guards and other people in the grounds start calling Rei the M-word. Raven tells them the rule, which are that if Rei is able to land a single hit on him within the given time frame, he will be hired as a guard, but if he can't, then he will leave the village immediately. The timer is set, and the battle starts as Raven rushes ahead with a powerful slash, which Rei dodges, but realizes that even with a wooden sword, that attack might have killed him. Raven then attacks once more, which is blocked by Rei, who still can't believe how strong and fast this lord is. Big Daddy keeps going on the attack, while Rei simply blocks and parries, which scares Ars, but he notices that everyone else seems to be surprised, as no one else has ever been able to withstand even a single attack from the lord. Raven goes all out with his attacks, and manages to hit Rei on the shoulder, forcing him on the ground, but to everyone's surprise, he gets back up again and decides to go all out. As his expressions turn serious, he rushes towards Raven, who tries to counterattack, but Rei dodges and slides beneath him, only to attack from behind, using the sun rays to his advantage, which blinds the lord. Even after that, Raven manages to block the attack, but this is the first time anyone has ever tried to land an attack on the lord. Just when Rei was getting in the groove, Raven tells him that the time is over, but decides to give Rei the win because no one ever came this close to actually landing a hit on him. Ars is overjoyed and congratulates Rei, while his father commends Ars for being able to find another talented individual, claiming that he really seems to have a God-given ability, while the rest of the guards and soldiers surround Rei, asking him for tips and begging him to train with them. Later that day, Rei wears a dress to symbolize his acceptance in the household, and drops to his knees before pledging his allegiance to Ars. Several months have passed by since Rei joined Ars and started working at their house, and even though at first the other workers were a bit racist against him because of his skin color, slowly but surely all of them came to like him. He spars and teaches the soldiers how to hone their skills better, and ever since he started getting lessons from Ars' tutor, his intelligence skyrocketed to the point where he is currently the most intelligent person in their household. Rei also ended up wooing the maids who once hated him, but now like him for his polite demeanor and handsome face. From the past couple of days, Rei Ray and Ars have started having study sessions together where they read up about the history of this continent, alongside the current political situation in each domain. They read up about how the Summerforth Kingdom used to be a force to be reckoned with, and was the strongest kingdom by far. But according to Ray, the kingdom is in a state of serious decline, as the old king ended up dying while his son, the new king, is only 8 years old. According to him, all the power right now is in the hands of the politicians surrounding the young king, who are trying to use him to gain as much power as possible. Because of all this, the government is unable to rule properly, which is leading to several revolts all over the country. And because of that, the lords and dukes of these regions have started ignoring the kingdom and are maintaining their own personal army to deal with these conflicts. Ars realizes that their county has seen no revolts up till now, but the fact that his father is training every single day while making preparations to get more soldiers must mean that conflicts can arise in the near future. He decides to find more talented people like Ray who can help them in the case of a war, even though he never wants it to happen. Ars asks Ray where does he think the war will first erupt if it were to happen, and without a doubt Ray replies that it would be the county near them, whose lord is really old and fragile. According to him, the lord can die any day now, and the war will likely begin on the matters of succession. Ray explains that the lord has 2 sons, and technically the older one should inherit the position, but everyone knows that the younger son is more capable and will make a better leader. If the conflict of succession isn't resolved before the lord dies, both the brothers will fight against each other, and the entire kingdom will have to choose sides. Ars asks which side will his father choose, and Ray replies that they will probably choose the big brother because according to the laws, he is the rightful heir. Ars thinks about how his father is still alive and can deal with all these problems, but worried about what might happen if something went wrong and his father got hurt. Ray tells him that they should be on the lookout for excellent talent which can strengthen their position and increase the safety. Ars wholeheartedly agrees with this, and both of them get ready to enter the nearby town to scout some talent. While moving through the front yard, Raven stops them and tells them to be on the lookout for a good mage, as a good wizard can be the key to winning a lost battle. Ars knows that his father doesn't have any magical talent, and once he handed Ars a magical gem to bring out his latent powers, but he turns out to have no aptitude for magic, and his father never asked him to try again. They leave their small county and wander off to the nearby town, which is much bigger than their small village town, and the people here seem to be more wealthy than those in his hometown. He tells Ray about how he wants his county to be like this one day, and Ray simply smiles while Ars starts searching for talent amongst the local population. Sadly, he can't find anyone with even above average skills, and sits down for a while after getting tired. Ray tells him not to worry, as this town has 50,000 people, which is 10 times more than their village town, so they will definitely find someone. While walking through the wide streets, Ars suddenly notices a small dingy yoehe, where a bunch of poor people are sleeping in the open. He is surprised by this, as he wasn't expecting this huge city with so many rich people to have such poverty. Ray gives him a life lesson, and tells him that every place that has a lot of rich people will have people living in extreme poverty, which makes Ars reconsider his dreams of making his village town like this city. A little while later, they enter the main market, and Ars's eyes start sparkling as he notices so many things being sold. Suddenly, he hears a man claiming to sell dragon eggs imported from a different continent, and Ars is immediately sold on the idea of having a pet dragon whom he can ride whenever he wants. He immediately asks the seller how much they cost, and with a sly smile, the seller replies that he will sell these extremely rare eggs for a price of 1 silver each. Ars immediately tells him that he will buy 3 and starts shuffling through his bag to get the money, when Ray pushes him back and puts a dagger on the seller's throat. He tells the seller that he dared to sell a noble counterfeit items which should be punishable by death, but the seller tells him that he didn't do anything wrong. Ray claims that he can't have these eggs imported officially or legally, as from the past 1 year, the import from other continents have been banned, which means that either he is lying or these items have been smuggled illegally. Moreover, dragon eggs are extremely rare, so how did a lowly idiot like him get so many of them? He then gets ready to eliminate this lying waste of air, when Ars forces him to stop. Ray immediately comes back to his senses and starts apologizing to Ars, accepting any punishment, but Ars tells him not to worry about it. Later they sit down to have lunch, when Ars decides to get some dessert from a stall. To his surprise, a pickpocket runs into Ars, stealing his pouch of money and runs off with it. Ray immediately grabs Ars and starts running after the thief, who starts weaving in and out of the crowd, but Ray manages to snag the cloak off to reveal a young blue-haired girl. The girl hurries into an alleyway, and when Ray reaches there, he spots the girl being surrounded by some hoodlums, while one of them punches her to the ground. Ars tries to stop them, but the leader gets mad at him and tries to punch, but Ray immediately grabs his arm and punches him in the guts, knocking him out. The other two men rush in for an attack, but Ray makes quick work of them as well, knocking them to the ground and forcing them to run away. Ars looks at the girl through his magic eye that reveals that this young woman possesses S-rank magic skills. He cannot believe his eyes as the stats for magic is incredible, so he immediately asks her to join him and be her vassal. Ray tells him that this girl is a thief, but Ars doesn't care and promises a comfortable life with salary and good food. The girl looks down at Ars and tells him that she would rather die than work under some spoiled noble child like him. According to her, all nobles are evil people who fill their coffers at the behest of poor people. She herself was taken in as a slave for a noble, but she ran away, and that's why these guys were trying to capture her back. Ars tries to reason with her, and tells her that she would make an excellent mage, but the girl replies that she has never even tried magic before. Ray realizes that it's a lost cause and asks the girl to return the pouch bag, which she does without arguing. Suddenly, a bunch of small kinds enter the alleyway and start huddling around the girl, as it turns out that she is taking care of these orphans and feeding them. Ars feels bad and gives her the pouch, and they soon leave as the evening sets. Later that night, Ars sits on the balcony, wondering whether he will ever find such talent again. When they hear a bunch of kids crying and screaming for the thief girl, they immediately head down to ask the kids what happened, and they all cry about how 3 men attacked and took Char with them. Meanwhile, Char is taken to the other side of the city where the goons throw her down on the floor in front of the slave trader. They start beating her up, but she takes all the damage without letting down a single drop of tear from her eyes. The slaver tells the goons to be careful with her face, as the perverted noble who wants to buy her wants the face to remain as pretty as possible. The goons promise to be careful, but one of them spots the pouch of money that Ars gave her, so he takes it off, only to find out that it's loaded with money. Suddenly Char gets up and snatches the pouch back from the hooligan and tries to make a run for it. But the goons are faster and manage to catch her again and pin her to the ground. The slaver tells her to accept her fate, as even if she manages to escape, she will simply live a life of misery, always running away, and will die a horrible death. Before he could break her spirit any further, the door swings open violently, injuring the man guarding it as Ray enters the room, blocking the first punch and dealing with the next two goons with extreme ease, as he throws his knife at the guy standing next to the trader. The slaver immediately tells everyone to stop, so they can talk. But Ars ends up running into the room and asks Char if she is fine. The girl seems to be surprised to see him here, while the slaver realizes that this little kid seems to be a noble because of the way he is dressed and the way he talks. The slaver calmly asks what he could do for him, and Ars replies that he wants him to free the girl at once. The slaver replies that he can't do that because he is not doing anything illegal, as it's perfectly illegal to sell slaves in this county. Ars tells him that he doesn't care about all of that. When Char ends up telling him to run away if he wants to save himself, he turns around to look at her and checks her stats once again and finds out that her ambition is 1, which means that she has totally lost hope for any future. He starts blabbering about how every person deserves to have a hope and a future that they can look up to, which the slaver finds very amusing and starts laughing, as the only futures a slave can hope for is serving a good master respectfully. Ars gets mad and tells him to stop laughing, as adults are supposed to make sure the children stay safe, and claims that it's up to her to decide what she wants to do in the future, and not scummy slavers like him. Char is deeply touched by this speech, as she thinks about how she can't remember the last time that she ever cried. Ever since she was young, she had to deal with life alone as she wandered around the streets, staying in dark alleyways during the rainstorms and even winters, while she looked at people who had life much easier. She was forced to steal to make ends meet, and even then she couldn't sustain herself or anyone else no matter how hard she tried. Watching someone stand up for her made her emotional, as tears starts flowing down her cheeks. The slaver has had enough though, and claims that he was talking very respectfully because the kid was a noble. But now he is interrupting business for no good reason, and he is a little too early to be this woke. A bunch of goons come down the stairs and gather around them as he threatens to hurt them. But Ars simply looks at Ray, who tells him not to worry as everything is under control. One of the goons tells Ars to shoot up as he hates yappy kids, but Ray grabs him by the throat and lifts him up in the air before slamming him to the ground, telling everyone that they have made a huge mistake by trash-talking Lord Ars, and now they are going to pay the price for this crime, which is death. He takes out his dagger, while a hooligan breaks a bottle, and tells everyone to surround Ray as he is alone. This doesn't work, however, as Ray dodges each and every blow with elegance and precision, while he slashes a couple of them in the abdomen and throws his knife at another one. Before he could continue, one of the goons grab him from behind with a knife, but Ray simply slams him to the ground, scaring the slaver, who calls for the mages. The two mages immediately chant their basic fire spells and shoot it at Ray, who easily slashes through their magic and beats the crap out of them as well. The slaver is terrified at this point, so he finally calls for the trump card, as a giant of a man erupts from upstairs, guzzling down some ale as he walks down. He asks what the ruckus is about, and the slaver explains to him what's happening, which angers the man as he gets ready to kick these people out. Char tells Ars that this guy is a giant problem, and that he should run away, but Ars checks his stats, and tells Char that it should be an easy match. And just as he said, Ray easily dodges the first attack by hanging from the chandelier, and then jumps down to kick him in the face. The man gets pissed and rushes in to grab Ray, but he is way too strong and good at fighting, and immediately ends the match by a clean uppercut to the chin, which knocks the fatty out. The slaver is pretty scared by now, and tells them that what they are doing is illegal. But Ars takes out a pouch filled with coins and tells him that he will buy her. The slaver claims that he already sold the girl to another noble, but Ray steps in and tells the slaver that they are taking the girl anyways, so he can take the money if he wants or stay penniless and deal with the other noble. The slaver ends up folding at this threat and accepts the money, legally selling Char to Ars. By the time they exit the slaver's office, it's already morning. But before they could go anywhere, Char claims that she wants to show them something. She takes them up to a hill where Ars struggles to walk, looking just like me, but finally reaches the summit only to see the most beautiful view of the town. She claims that this was her secret place to come whenever she felt down and wanted to show them as a token of gratitude. Ars takes in the gorgeous view, while Ray hands her a magic locket to test out how strong her magic is. She puts it on her neck and warns them that she doesn't think she has any magic as she has never tried it. But the moment she chants the spell, a huge wave of mana surges out of her, creating a massive fireball that explodes in the sky, stunning everyone in the town, including Ars and Ray. After that, she meets up with the orphan kids once again, and promises to visit them as soon as possible before leaving on a journey back to Ars's home. After they finally reach back, Ars meets with his father, who at first thinks that Ars got a new dishwasher. Ars tells him that she is an excellent mage and will prove effective on the battlefield, but his father rejects her, claiming that women belong in the kitchen, not on the battlefield. To prove her worth, Char fires an insanely strong fire blast in the sky, shocking Raven, who immediately folds like a deck of cards and welcomes her to the Luvent family, and they all go inside, ready for the adventures waiting to unfold the next day. It's been 3 years since the day he recruited Char to be her vassal, and since then, his father has taken parts in multiple small and big battles, easily winning them all. Even though the mood of the entire continent is pretty bad because of constant wars, the morale of the soldiers of this county is pretty high thanks to his father's amazing war tactics, and also because of Char, who has grown into a beautiful woman who is incredibly potent at the battlefield. No one believed that a single mage can turn the tide of the war, and ever since then, Raven has started recruiting more mages under her tutelage so that they can strengthen their standing army. Moreover, Ars now has 2 younger siblings, a boy and a girl, both twins. He checked their stats and saw that even though they are very young now, they have a couple of A and S rank abilities. Ars has since been looking for more talent, but has been out of luck for a while. But Ray tells him that he has found some information about 2 hunter brothers who are supposed to be pretty highly skilled. Ars gets excited immediately and tells him that they should head over to meet them and check whether their abilities are for real or not. A little while later, he heads out to the forest alongside Ray to find the small hut in the forest where the hunters live when they are intercepted by Char, who is sitting atop a tree branch eating a sandwich. Ars tells her that they got some information about a couple of hunters who moved into these woods recently, and they are just heading out to meet up with them. Char tells him that she is free for the day, so she will also go with him as his escort to make sure he stays safe, and that she definitely does, as she puts him between two airbags to make sure he is protected in the case of a crash. While Rei gets jealous and tells her that maybe she should walk because the horse is being strained by so much weight. She tells him that she has been fighting in wars and getting results, so maybe he should show him some respect. While they were bickering, some bushes start rustling and a wild boar appears out of nowhere, scaring the horse, but is immediately shot down by an arrow. Suddenly 2 guys emerge from the dense thickets, happy that they landed the kill. When they suddenly see the guests, they immediately head over and ask whether they are okay, as they didn't know there were people around. Ars tells them that they are fine, and asks whether they are the Hunter brothers who recently moved here. The brothers reply that they did move here recently, so Ars quickly checks their stats only to realize that they have pretty decent stats. These stats are well above average, but nothing crazy. The brothers take him back to their place where the father treats them with a whole load of fresh meat from the hunt on the table, while apologizing if it wasn't enough, as he had no idea that the son of the Lord might visit him. Ars smiles at him happily, claiming that this is more than enough, while Char can't stop herself and starts enjoying the feast. The father asks Ars what is he here for, and Ars replies that he heard tales of his son being great hunters, so he wanted to check them out for himself. And after analyzing them, he claims that he wants them to join the Lovent County Army, as they can be of huge help there. The father is beyond happy, as he can't even believe that his sons can get the chance to become a high-ranking soldiers. While Ars was asking about the youngest son, Char notices that a small boy tries to steal a piece of bread and quietly runs away. But his father scolds him and tells him to properly introduce himself. Ars doesn't think much of it first, but decides to check his stats regardless. What he sees next completely blows his mind, as the kid has 100 plus intellect and is an S-rank tactician. He spills all the drink as he starts coughing, while thinking that this amount of intellect is legendary, and he doubts that anyone in the entire kingdom can beat him in terms of smartness. His father apologizes for the kid, and claims that unlike his older brother Rose is pretty clumsy. But Ars's eyes are starry as he looks at him, and claims that he definitely wants to make Rose his vassal. This shocks the old man as well as his sons, who can't believe it. The father tells Ars to reconsider, as Rose will just be a nuisance, but Ars walks up to the child and excitedly asks whether he would like to be his vassal and work for him. The kid looks up with fear, as he thinks that these people are going to force him to take arms and fight in battles. He starts crying and immediately refuses, claiming that he will end up dying easily. His father scolds him for talking this way to a noble, but Rose simply runs away and hides inside his room. Ars is sad because he keeps getting rejected all the time, but the father apologizes to Ars, claiming that Rose is no good, as ever since his mother died, Rose has kept himself shut off inside the room alone, and unlike his brothers, he never practices archery or wood splitting, making him a bad hunter. Ars tells the dad that physical strength is not everything, and that unlike his brothers, he has an incredible amount of intelligence, which will make him an excellent tactician. Ars doesn't want to back off, and tells the old man that he will try to convince him once more. He enters the room where he spots the young boy reading a book. But as soon as he sees Ars, he starts crying again. Ars tries to calm him down, claiming that he will never harm him, and asks whether he likes to read books. The kid replies that his mom used to read him books, but this is the only one they have, so he keeps reading it whenever he remembers her. Ars decides to sweeten the deal a little bit, and promises that he has a giant library in his house where he can find every single book imaginable. This entices the young boy, but he asks whether he will let him take one book, and Ars agrees. Later that day they arrive back to the mansion alongside the 3 brothers, but Rose immediately starts crying when a good boy tries to play with him. Ars asks Char to give the older brothers a tour of the place. While he takes Rose back to his library, the boy is immediately entranced by the sheer number of books inside the place and start picking them out, while Ars claims that he needs to study as well, and will meet up later. A couple of hours pass by and Ars suddenly wakes up only to realize he slept while studying. He immediately runs down, scared that Rose might have ran away, But the moment he enters the library, he notices that Rose is also sleeping surrounded by a ton of bugs. Ray tells Ars that this boy is incredible, as he learns new words immediately and has a very deep thinking process. Ars checks his stats only to see that it has already increased a bunch, which is crazy. Finally, the brothers arrive and start making fun of Rose for being surrounded by books, as he can't even read. This surprises Ars, who asks what are they talking about, and the hunters reply that apart from their mother, no one knew how to read as they are hunters, and Rose only heard stories from his mother when she was alive, but she never taught him anything. Rose finally wakes up and Ars asks how did he learn how to read. Rose replies that he learned how to read by simply listening to what his mother was saying, and matching it with the shapes on the book. This really shocked the brothers, who tell him that he was only 2 years old when that happened. So how can he remember? But Rose drops a bombshell by saying that he basically remembers every single thing from the day he was born. The next day, Ars decides to boost Rose's confidence, and tells him that archery is not the only way to hunt, and that he can also learn how to make traps. Rose replies that he has already thought about it, but never had the confidence, so Ars tells him to try it out. A while later, the old man arrives in the jungle, only to see a huge trap in the middle, while the older brothers excitedly tell him that Rose made this trap all by himself, which already has a bunch of boars stuck in it. Rose explains that he realized that the male boars are angered by the color yellow, so he painted the hanging door with that color, which made the boar hit it, and he gets trapped inside. Moreover, he hung a special herb around the boundary to make sure the females and the babies stay away, as they don't like the smell of that plant. This will ensure that they don't overhunt the babies, which can reduce their population and cause extinction. He excitedly looks at his dad for approval, but doesn't get any, which saddens him even more. That night, he sits down in his room alone, blaming himself for his mother's death, because after giving birth to him she got ill. He cries in the room alone when he overhears his brothers and his father climbing atop the roof to have a drink. The brothers ask why his father was so strict with Rose, and the dad starts crying, claiming that it's all his fault for always being strict with him, just because he was bad at hunting. He claims that he is being cold to him right now, because he wants Rose to hate him, so that he feels like he doesn't need his dad, and leaves for Lord Ars's place where his abilities will be rewarded greatly, and he will live a happy life. Rose hears all this and cries, realizing that his dad loves him. The next morning Ars comes to pick the older brothers up, thinking that Rose would never agree to come, but to his surprise, the little boy rushes outside with a huge bag. He tells his dad that he can never hate him and promises that he will become a great man, and then he will come back to his dad, and they will always live together. His dad starts crying, and finally all the brothers take oaths of loyalty to the young lord, as they become his vassals waiting for the adventures ahead. 3 more years pass, and when Ars turns 9, his father falls ill. Ars requests him to let him lead their army into the war instead of him, but his father refuses. 1 year ago, the Duke of Mission passed away from old age, and named his younger son as his successor. However, the older brother refused to accept the will, and blamed that his brother had manipulated it to become the new duke. Since the older brother had recently shown some great feats in the war, many nobles supported him in the War of Succession. This resulted in Mission being split into 2 because of a civil war, and the neighboring Duchy of Sates took this chance to invade them, making things even more tense. Ars believes that he must go to war, but his father tells him that there are more important things he needs to do since his fiancée is coming here. Ars freaks out on hearing about a fiancé, and his dad remarks that he must have forgotten to tell him that he was engaged before even being born. He hands his son a letter from his fiancée, and Ars immediately runs to his friends to alert them about the emergency. He is flustered because he never knew he had a fiancée, and now she is coming to visit him. A maid immediately tells him that his fiancée is already at the gate, and Ars nervously goes there to receive her. In his past life, he didn't even have a girlfriend, so he is nervous about how to treat his fiancée. The girl introduces herself as Lisha, and Ars is smitten by her cuteness before realizing that her diplomacy stat is 100 and her ambition is 80. He is taken aback and thinks that Lisha is a dangerous person who might try to take over his family while pretending to be a sweet girl. However, as she smiles at him, he suddenly forgets about stopping her from taking over his family and starts simping for her instead. He invites her in, and Lisha and her butler see all the servants hurrying to make preparations to welcome her. Her butler is about to turn racist on seeing Ray, but Lisha stops him. She knows about Ray and his great achievements on the battlefield, and asks her butler to apologize for being rude to him. The butler apologizes to Ars, who says that it is fine. After that, the maids gift Lisha a bouquet of roses to welcome her, and she cheerfully accepts it. She walks around the house, complimenting it and politely greeting all the servants there. Ars can only stare at her in awe, unable to understand her true intentions. Soon, they sit for dinner, and Lisha points out that he has some sauce on his face. Ars is flustered and quickly wipes it. While thinking that Lisha is really good at communication, and even he can make small talk with her effortlessly, she is super cute too. And if he had not seen her high diplomacy and ambition beforehand, he would have already fallen in love with her. Lisha then remarks that she saw the city of Lamberg on the way, and it appeared quite lively to her. Ars says that he would have loved to show her around if the weather was clear, and Lisha tells him that it will be soon. Almost instantly, it stops raining and the clouds part, giving way to sunshine. Ars freaks out and asks Lisha if she can control the weather by any chance. She denies the allegations and says that she just saw the clouds on her way here, and figured out that they would pass quickly. Lisha asks Ars to show her around the town now that the weather has cleared, and he is more than happy to do that. They head to the market, and everyone greets Ars and asks him about the girl with him. He introduces her as his fiancée, and the ladies immediately start spreading around the good news. Ars soon comes to a place where two merchants are fighting because one of them delivered the wrong type of magic stones to the other. Ars thinks that he must resolve the fight as the heir of this territory, otherwise Lisha will declare him incompetent and usurp the territory. Suddenly, Char comes there and offers to one-shot the two merchants to silence them for good, but Lisha tells her that she can't. She immediately identifies her as the legendary magician and claims that she is a great fan. Lisha butters Char up and asks for a handshake, and succeeds in winning her over. After that, she asks Ars to let her handle the conflict in exchange for a small favor from him, before he can even make up his mind about her request. Lisha is already in front of the two merchants, and asks them to stop fighting lest they ruin their handsome faces. She introduces herself as Ars's fiancée, and the men stop fighting and congratulate her. Lisha then tells the magic stone merchant to sell his sound magic stones to her because they don't have them in her territory. She also offers the second merchant to buy the fire magic stones he needs at a low price from her territory because they have a volcano there. She says that it is the perfect solution for them, and gives Ars all the credit for coming up with this idea. The merchants believe her and thank Ars. Woe takes this chance and asks them to always keep written documents about the deals they make. After everyone disperses, Ars thanks Lisha, and they resume their tour. They are returning back home in the evening, when Lisha wants to cash in her favor from before. Ars nervously waits for her favor, but Lisha just wants to know what kind of girls he likes. He is stunned because he really doesn't understand what her true intentions are. He knows that her intelligence is far superior to his, but he is ready to take his chances. He tells Lisha that he likes people who are honest and truthfully express their intentions. She simply smiles and says that she will take it as a reference. That night, they have a nice dinner, and then Ars goes to sleep, still wondering what his fiancée's true intentions are. As he lifts his bedsheet, he is shocked to find Lisha hiding there, but she asks him to be quiet. Ars says that she is in the wrong room, but Lisha tells him that she came here on purpose to surprise him. She refers to their conversation where he told her that he likes honest people, and she wants to talk honestly to him now. Ars pours them tea to start the conversation, and Lisha asks him what he thinks of her. He spits out his tea because of the sudden question, and asks her what she means. Lisha reveals that she has a skill that can allow her to see a person's emotions, even when they are hiding it. When she met Ars for the first time, the emotion she read on his face was doubt. Lisha claims that she tried to be friendly to him to lessen his doubt, but it only grew, and he even asked her to be honest with her. She asks Ars what exactly is he he's suspicious about, and he realizes that all this trouble started because he had a look at her status. He decides to be honest with her, and reveals that he can see the various attributes of other people. He saw her high diplomacy and ambition, which led him to wonder if the nice behavior she is showing was just an act. Lisha understands everything now, and admits that she indeed has high ambitions. Ars asks her what kind of ambitions, and she blushes as she says that it is every woman's ambition to find an outstanding man who will fall in love with her at the first sight. Ars turns red too, and the atmosphere becomes awkwardly tense between them. He realizes that it is true that as a daughter of a noble, Lisha will need an outstanding husband to thrive, and he wonders what she thinks about someone like him, who is the heir of a small territory. She laughs and remarks that she was able to read his thoughts accurately just now. She says that this territory is indeed small, and had Ars turned out to be a lousy person, she would have done anything to get out of her engagement with him. That comes as a shock to Ars. But then Lisha tells him that now she really wants to marry him. She states that their family is weak right now, but she can see the talent in Ars to make it big and powerful. She could see that he is loved by his people, and everyone was genuinely happy when they learnt that he had a fiancé. Lisha claims that it was enough proof that he is an amazing man, so she has fallen in love with him. Ars turns red on hearing that, and then she wishes him good night as she returns to her room. He freaks out once he is left alone, and realizes that Lisha's ambition was really cute. Outside his door, Lisha is also still flustered about the bold actions she took by sneaking into a boy's room and confessing her feelings, but she also feels really happy about it. The next day, she returns back to her territory, thinking about how the world of nobles is a foul place full of greed and lies. The nobles will use any method to pull others down and rise up. Lisha has always been troubled by her ability to read other people's emotions, because their emotions were always nasty. She thought her ability was a curse, until the day she saw a woman happily married to a strong and prosperous man. That day, she realized that if she also gets to marry a man of outstanding power and reputation, she can get out of this world full of negativity. So she honed the art of lying to please people by reading their emotions, while looking for a strong family to marry into. Lisha had no intentions to marry Ars because of his weak family, and the initial impression he gave her was not good either. He grew more and more suspicious of her no matter what she did, but then he did something that won her heart. While they were traveling through the market, Ars apologized to her for the roads being too rough for her tender feet, and brought her some ointment in case her shoes were hurting her. That was the moment Lisha realized that Ars was an incredibly kind person, and coupled by the respect he commanded from his people, she immediately thought of him as her ideal man. She fell in love with him at that moment. Now, Lisha thinks that Ars is capable and strong, but he is also kind, and she cannot let that become his weakness. As someone who will one day be the closest person to him, she swears that she will destroy all obstacles that come in the way of their happy future. After their first meeting, Ars and Lisha begin to exchange letters frequently. Ars felt a little anxious because he had never chatted to a girl in his past life like this. However, he can manage to flirt a little with her in the letters. Lisha visits him again, and he gifts her some flower seeds because she liked the flowers. She thanks him, and then reminds him that he has not given her an answer to her confession yet. Ars is flustered, but she tells him that he can take his time because she will work hard to make him fall for her. They keep talking through letters, and a brief period of time comes as the War of Succession stops. Ars's father also starts getting better. More than that, he wants to tell her that he has fallen in love with her too. Some time passes and Lord Raven's health starts getting worse and worse, as the doctor comes out of his room and tells young Ars that maybe it's time that he starts preparing his mind for the worst to come. Ars feels really anxious about this whole situation. Meanwhile, the current ruler of Mission ends up getting assassinated by a soldier who stabs him in the back like the Mad King, and then tries to run away. Unfortunately, the assassin ends up getting cornered, so he ends up jumping out the window and takes his own life. The next night, this news reaches Lord Raven, who reads the letter in front of his loyal council, and then asks Rose about his opinions on this matter. Rose explains that now that there is no one sitting at the helm, according to him, a deadly war between the two sons of the late lord is inevitable, and they should start preparing their forces as well. Raven thinks about the situation and claims that now the county chief in which mission comes will have to choose and support one of the sons in this matter of succession. And most probably the county chief Lumi will choose the older son over the younger one. This means that no matter what happens, they will also have to support the older son as well. But the moment Raven tries to get up, he falls back down on the bed unconscious. A couple nights later, the summon letter finally comes to the Levin family ordering the Lord to present himself for the council. Ars reads the letter and tells Ray that his father is in no fit state to visit the county himself. And Ray agrees as he tells Ars not to worry. He tells him that he will leave the next day alongside Char to meet with the county chief. But Ars tells him that he will accompany them as well in his father's stead. The next morning they reach the county of Kenar, which takes Ars by surprise, as he never thought a place this big can be held by a single lord. They walk up to the castle gates where they are stopped by the guard. Ars hands him the letter sent by Lord Lumi, claiming that he is here to represent the Levant family. The guard seems a bit skeptical, but he immediately ends up recognizing Char as the Fire Princess and Ray as the Grim Reaper of the Levant family. The guard immediately accepts them inside the castle and starts leading them to the meeting hall, but they end up meeting with one of Lord Lumi's vassals called Ren. He seems to be a well-rounded guy with above-average stats in all categories. He greets them warmly and claims that he never expected to see the little lord instead of his father, before he turns towards Ray and Char, asking them whether they would want to join Lord Lumi as his vassals. This scares Ars a bit, but his vassals are loyal, and they decline the offer. Soon Ars enters the meeting hall and immediately starts feeling like a fish out of water because of the intense atmosphere, so he simply takes a seat at the table. One of the old guys remembers Ars from when he was a child and offers him some cookies while the fatty looks at him with disdain. Suddenly the door opens and all of them stand up as the Lord of Kenar enters the room alongside Ren. Ars immediately starts peeking at the stats of Lord Lumi and realizes that as expected the Lord seems to have very high stats and abilities, even though it is nowhere near his father's stats. Lumi's trustworthy counsel in Ren gives him all the attributes he lacks. According to Ars, together, both Lumi and Ren are probably going to make the best decisions for the country. The Lord tells the other lords to stay seated, as he explains that the ruler of Mission was murdered, which means that a bloody war is at hand. He tells them that he called all of them out to make it clear that they are all going to support Lord Curran, the older son over the younger son. And if anyone has any issues, they should speak now. Both the old guy as well as the fatty immediately claim that they have no problems with it. Ars also follows their lead and promises to support the older brother in the upcoming war. The Lord continues by saying that all of them should have a standing army at hand, because he fears that the neighboring county may try to take advantage of this situation and attack them. If this happens, they will have to make sure they have enough troops to defend. After that he dismisses the court, but before leaving he walks up to Ars and praises him for attending the council in his father's stead. Lumi claims that even though the territory of Lamberg is very small, in recent years they have been acquiring some unbelievable talent, which has resulted in them becoming one of the strongest forces around. He tells Ars to keep up the good work and moves out. Before Ars could move, however, the fatty stops him and introduces himself as Lish's father. He tells Ars that his daughter has been very upset lately because he is not returning her letters anymore. Suddenly Ars remembers that he wanted to send her a reply, but every time he sat down to write, something or the other interrupted him. The fatty claims that he knows his daughter was really smart even since a young age, and because of that, he didn't put a lot of attention on her. Because of this, she started spending more time in the court and learned all the tactics and deceit from the politicians. He finally tells Ars that he was skeptical at first about this boy lord who she wanted to marry, but now he is convinced that Ars can handle her, and he apologizes for glaring at her. Ars apologizes back and promises to write back to her. Back at the Lambert territory, Lord Raven praises Ars for attending the war council, and calls him a grown man for taking that step. This really makes him happy, but he knows his skills are still very weak, so he starts training every day with Ray. Sadly, even though everyone is improving, he can't seem to improve at all. Ray tells him to take a break, but he refuses as he knows he can't take any chances. He remembers how during every mock battle he was soundly and badly beaten, as no matter how many books he might read, He can't defeat anyone with actual practical experience. Suddenly Rose runs into the yard and gives Ars a letter. The letter turns out to be from Lord Lumi, alerting everyone that the neighboring county is invading the old lord's territory and they need to march against them. This really scares Ars, but he knows his father is not fit to lead an army, so he calls his troops and tries to give a speech. Suddenly his father appears behind him and claims that he will lead the troops. And when Ars tries to protest, Raven simply replies that he isn't a warrior yet. To prove it, Raven brings a prisoner on death row and tells Ars to watch the execution, promising that if he can remain calm, he will let him lead her troops to battle. The criminal gets taken to the block where he is beheaded immediately, and just as Raven expected, Ars is still too kind and weak as he starts puking on the ground. Raven orders his troops to move out, and they all follow him, leaving poor Ars behind as he cries over his own weakness, wondering whether he will ever see his dad again after this war. The conflict was a drawn-out 1-month battle in which their forces were outnumbered by more than 5,000 men. But because of Rose's excellent tactics that outclassed the enemy generals, Char's magnificent magic attacks that shook the enemies to the core and filled them with fear, while Lord Raven and Ray used their deadly combat abilities to cut through the enemy lines like a hot knife through butter. Their armies finally prevailed and defeated the much larger enemy forces before capturing the castle. After a month-long conquest, Lord Raven and his bannermen returned home 4 days after Ars's 12th birthday. His wife and the 2 younger kids stayed by their father's side as his condition worsened, scared that they would lose their father. By the time night fell, Ars came back bruised and battered towards his father's chamber, and asked Ray about the condition of his father. Ray explained what's up with his dad and how bad his conditions are before asking whether someone hurt Ars. He simply replied that he got the injuries while training and that it's not a big deal. He feels sad because his father was forced to lead the conquest, even after being so sick, just because Ars was not ready to do so. Ray assures him it's not his fault because he is still very young, but it doesn't matter to Ars, who thanks him for kind words before turning back. Char tells Ray that she heard he has been training ever since they left on the conquest, and his behavior has changed. He has stopped laughing and has forgotten everything as he trains day and night against people stronger than him in hopes of becoming better. Suddenly, their thoughts are broken by a knock at the door, which Ray gets concerned about because it's so late, who it is only to find Lisha alongside her butler waiting in the front door. She seems very concerned and apologizes for coming in so late, but Lisha straight up asks whether Ars is okay. She claims that ever since the conflict started, his letters have become weird. Earlier, they used to be full of emotions as he talked through the letters, but nowadays his letters seem more or less a formality, as there are no emotions in them. Ray apologizes from his behalf and tells Lisha not to think badly of him as he has his own reasons. But Lisha claims that she is not upset, but she is just worried about Ars and asks what's up. Ray decides to tell Lisha about all the things that happened involving the execution and how he blames himself for his father's declining health because he wasn't strong enough to take control of the situation. Lisha feels really bad for Ars and decides to go check out on him, but the moment she reaches the training ground, she hears sounds of a very intense sparring match between 2 people. She opens the door to peek inside and notices Ars fighting against one of the soldiers, but he doesn't seem to be strong enough to overpower him. The soldier asks Ars to let the matter rest for today as his body is not in the shape of fighting anymore. Lisha was also going to call him out and tell him to stop. But suddenly Ars gets up on his limping feet and declares that his father was in a worse condition when he was fighting through the war, so it's the least he can do as his son. Hearing this, Lisha changes her mind as she realizes how determined Ars is right now. She turns around to tell the others that they should leave him alone for the time being. Suddenly a maid comes running and tells them that Lord Raven has regained consciousness and wants to talk. Rose cries happy tears and claims that he will inform Ars, but the maid tells them that the Lord has instructed her to only bring the 3 of them first. Ray, Char, and Rose follow the command and enter Raven's chamber, where they find him sitting weakly. He thanks them for dealing with him on the battlefield while he was sick. He then asks them about their lives in his house and whether they like it here. Ray replies that compared to his old life, this place feels like heaven to him. Rose agrees with the sentiment, claiming that he loves it here, while Char replies that this is the only home that she has ever known. He thanks them for being with his family, even though when they first came Raven wasn't very interested in making them his followers. Ray was a person of color, Rose only 5 years old, and Char was a measly girl, but they all have grown up and proved their usefulness to the Lovent family. He claims that ours is not yet strong enough to face the battlefield right now, and thrusting lordship upon him at such a small age will be very cruel. But he doesn't think he has any other options now. Standing on the death's doorsteps makes you realize how many things you have left undone, as he regrets not taking ours to the battlefield before to show him the cruel reality of this world. He always tried to shelter him from the tough cold world, thinking that he could protect him. But now it's too late, as he doesn't think he will survive a lot longer. He talks to them as a father, and not as their lord, as he begs with them to support ours from now on when he can't, and bows in front of them. Tears start falling down Rose's cheeks as he claims that he will study as hard as possible and make sure to help ours with every single problem that arises. Char claims that he doesn't know anything about leadership, but she wants to help ours realize his dream of creating a utopia, as she has full faith in him. Ray speaks up and claims that his life was nothing before he met ours, as he gave meaning to his life, and promises to fight alongside ours as his sword and shield till the day he dies. They all thank Lord Raven for entrusting them with this task and take their leave. After that, Lisha is called in as the other three leave, and this is the first time Lisha is meeting with Lord Raven. He apologizes for meeting her in this condition, and claims that even though she hasn't met him before, he has met her before. It was years ago, when her mother died. Raven also went in the funeral, where he saw Lisha as a young girl crying in grief like any other person would. But when her younger brother started crying because he was hungry, Lisha immediately wiped her tears away and gave her brother some cookies to eat. It was that day Raven realized how kind she was and decided to offer a betrothal to her father with ours. He begs her to be with ours during his time of trouble and help him manage the territory. Lisha starts crying as she tells him how hard ours is trying to be like his father, which brings a smile to his face as he claims that she seems to be truly in love with him. She leaves the chamber only to find Ray looking solemnly at the moon, and after getting out of eyeshot, he bursts out in uncontrollable tears, seeing the condition that Lord Raven was in. A little while later ours was called in, and he came in with a bunch of medicine. As he starts telling his father about all the research he has been doing regarding his condition, and also claims that he might have made some breakthroughs. Raven tells his son to sit down beside him as he starts talking to him like a father and tells him his story. He claims that he was from a poor territory where the lord was extremely corrupt and taxed the poor farmers heavily. Tired of all this, Raven ended up running away from his home and territory and reached the main town, where he saw the mayor for the first time in his life. The mayor looked magnificent on his horse, and ever since that day Raven decided to make something out of the cards he was dealt and started learning how to swing a sword on his own. Soon enough he became good at it and ended up distinguishing himself in several battles, which slowly resulted in him being promoted to the status of a lord of the territory of Lamberg, and that's where his life truly began. He tells ours not to blame himself for this situation and claims that he must need to be strong and take care of the people in this territory. Ours starts breaking down but pulls himself together and promises to be a just and good lord when the time comes and to protect his people and his family from all harm. After that they ended up talking through the entire night as father and son, and by the time the next morning came, Lord Raven was no longer around to take care of his family. The funeral was held that evening, and almost all of Lamberg came to attend the passing of their just and good lord. He called his siblings near him to comfort them before giving his respect to the funeral with the flowers. Tears come down his eyes, but he mans up and tells his subjects that his father has taught him a good many things, and he talked with him the entire night. He claims that his father entrusted him to take care of the entire territory. He turns towards them and honestly claims that he is not as strong as his father, nor is he as seasoned, but he promises to always take care of them to the best of his abilities and asks for their support during these tough times. This really touches the heart of his people as they shout his name, claiming to follow him to the depths of hell. Char remembers the time she was going all out in battle and Raven came to check on her and told her to take it easy as she is doing excellent anyways. Rose also remembers his kindness as when he was studying in the night during the winters. Lord Raven came to check up on him and gave him his blanket before telling to get some rest and to not overwork himself as he is still a kid with loads of room to grow. Ours feels grateful to have so many loving people nearby as he thanks them for their loyalty. while they all bow down on their knees as the reign of a new lord begins, which will bring along its own trials and challenges. A couple weeks pass by and everything seems to be going fine with the region controlled by Lovent family as Ars heads down to his father's grave once again and talks to him about how he is trying to keep up with all of his duties. And even though he is nothing compared to Lord Raven, his friends and retainers have been doing an excellent job of supporting him throughout the reign. Soon, Ray calls him from behind as he stands there alongside Char and Rose and tells Ars that they should head down to the lord of their county for the war council discussion. A little while later he arrives at the county of Kanar and is escorted into the war council by the lord there. They all take a moment of silence for Ars's father as they commend him for being an excellent soldier and leader, for staying true to his word and with his army till the day he died. They then tell Ars that this would be a huge load, but they all trust him, and even Ars claims that he will try his very best to not let them down. They all sit down as the discussion begins and Lumi tells them that they have decided to support the cause of the older brother, so they need to see it through. According to his intel, the younger brother has a superior army in terms of sheer number and fighters, but the older brother currently controls a very important port town, which means that they have the economic advantage over the others. He further claims that the overall strength of both the sides seem to be the same, which means that the tide of the war can turn on either sides, which means they need to be more careful. He tells the others that one of the most important factors in this war would be controlling the nearby areas where both the brothers have been occupied and sway them to fight from their side. According to Lord Lumu, he already sent some emissaries to talk to the nearby regions, and most of them seem to be complying, but one of the regions called Penner seems to be defiant. It seems to be a pretty small region, but could be of strategic importance, which makes it important that they control it before the enemies do. Since the diplomatic talks fell through, Lumi tells the other lords that they are now going to launch an all-out attack and take that region by force. The other two lords seem to be in agreement, but Ars puts his head down before speaking up as he asks whether they can be allowed to try something first. The other lords are confused, but it turns out that a couple of nights ago, Ars, Rose, Char and Ray were poring over the map and checking everything when Rose claimed that it doesn't make sense for the region of Penner to be so defiant. He claims that they are very susceptible to any attacks from the region of Lovent, but yet they decide to go against them. According to him, there is more than what is meeting the eye, and even Ray agrees with him. Ars asks what should be done in that case, and Rose claims that they can simply attack them in a huge number. But there is a small possibility that they get a rude awakening and fall for some trap, which destroys their entire army. According to him, they should take it easy and do some research before making any moves against this region. Ray claims that he knows some people from a spy group that are excellent at espionage and getting information out of people. He tells Ars that they can hire them, and Ars agrees. Back in the present, he tells the council that the region of Penner is definitely up to something, and if they attack them directly, they can suffer heavy losses. He asks them for some time to conduct their own investigation, and thankfully Lord Lumi allows it. A little while later they leave the council and start heading back, while Ray praises Ars for his boldness, when suddenly they are called out by a bunch of children. Ars suddenly realizes that all these children are the same ones that Char used to take care of before all on her own, but now they have grown enough to leave the nest and take care of themselves. An old lady who runs the orphanage walks up to him and greets him warmly before thanking him for everything he did. It turns out that Ars managed to provide funds for the construction of a huge orphanage with the goal to take as many children in as possible. He tells her that all of them have worked hard of the orphanage. Char runs to the kids and asks what are they going to do next, and all of them seem to have their own plans. One of the kids wants to be a soldier, while another wants to be a maid at the castle. Another kid likes working in the bakery, while the last one wants to get involved in farming as it interests him. They all turn around to face Ars and thank him for all the things he has done. But Ars tells them to thank Char instead, as it is her who sends most of her salary away to the orphanage so that the kids can have everything they ever want. Char walks up to Ars and tells him that the day when she went alongside Ars, she was very confused as she didn't know whether to take the kids with her or not. But she thinks she made the right decision by leaving them here, as everything ended up working out for them. He looks around to see everyone happy as they play around the garden, when suddenly he hears someone calling his name from behind and turns around to see Lisha right there standing in front of him. He looks completely bamboozled as he wasn't mentally prepared to talk to her and starts stammering as he asks what is she doing here. She claims that her father was coming here for the war council, so she decided to accompany him. And when she heard that Ars was also here, she immediately left her chambers to try and find him. She looks around to see happiness all around her when suddenly a young girl walks up to her and puts her dirty hands on her royal dress. Ars immediately freaks out thinking Lisha is going to get super upset and promises to buy her a new dress. But to his surprise, she doesn't seem bothered at all, and immediately takes off her shoes and starts playing with the children as Ars thinks about how lucky he is to find a fiancé like her. That night they decide to stay in the orphanage itself as Lisha talks with Ars and Rose, while Char sleeps on the bed with the kids. Ars explains about how he plans to meet with a spy group called the Shadows, and how he is going to try and infiltrate the territory of the enemies for information. Lisha finds all that very interesting and tells Ars that she wants to accompany him. Ars immediately declines, claiming that it's going to be very dangerous, but Lisha claims that he is going as well, and moreover she has full faith that Ray will protect them if anything happens. Ars can't say anything in front of her, so he agrees, claiming that he will pick her up from her lodgings the next day. But Lisha has something else in her mind as she claims that she had all her stuff brought here, and that she will sleep here today. Ars gets embarrassed and walks up, claiming that he will find a room for her, but she tells him that she wants to sleep together. Soon Char wakes up and tells Ars that they should all sleep together, and even force Rose to sleep with them. Poor Ars and Rose are barely able to sleep all night when the next morning Ray brings the good news that he managed to talk to the Shadows, and they will meet them today. They bid goodbye to the people at the orphanage and start walking out together, while Ars thanks Ray for getting in contact with the Shadows. He seems to be happy about it, but also concerned as he claims that recently the old leader of that organization retired and a new younger leader has been appointed who does everything from espionage to assassinations. He tells Ars that the new leader is pretty competent, but he only takes up jobs that interest him. Ars tells him that they should offer him good money as Lord Lumi has put his trust in them, but Ray claims that it's not about money at all. They finally enter a tavern when a burly man tells them to scram as they are full. Ars is confused, but Ray walks ahead and tells him a code word. The man immediately tells them that a table just opened, and they all take their seats at the back while Char starts looking at what to order. The gentry in the tavern seems to be full of hooligans and tough men as Ars realizes that such an efficient spy organization must be checking up on them as well. He starts looking around with his magic eye to find anyone who stands out, when Char snaps him back and tells him that the waitress is waiting. He turns around to look at the waitress as he asks for a fruit juice when suddenly he gets shocked and his mouth drops open. He doesn't utter a word though and looks down before excusing himself to the washroom. He washes his face and checks up on Ray to confirm that his magic eye isn't broken, but he can't believe that according to the eye, that waitress is actually a man with incredible stats. Suddenly, the waitress appears behind him and grabs him with a knife before taking him in the storeroom as she points a knife at his throat. She asks how the hell did he know her true identity, but before he could reply, the door opens and Ray throws a knife at the leader who dodges the attack before drawing his knife to try and stab Ray, who grabs his arm immediately and asks what the hell is he doing in an angry voice. Suddenly Lisha also enters the room and calmly walks up to the boss, telling him that the person he just threatened is the Lord of Lambert and the heir to Love and Family. She tells him that after being so rude in their first meeting, he doesn't really have a choice but to accept their job. The leader introduces himself as Fam and simply smiles as he claims that he could simply kill Ars, take his gold and run away. But Lisha suddenly goes dark and tells him that if he ever said anything like that again, she will find him, even if he runs to the end of the world and destroy him. Fam simply laughs and agrees to take the job just like that, but he asks how did Ars know who he was. Ars explains his powers and the leader tells them to come to the back room for the talk. Ars is still confused about how Lisha and Ray knew that he was in danger, and Lisha explains that his expressions gave away everything. They all go inside the back room where Ars explains what needs to be done, and Fam immediately agrees to the project before asking for some payment in advance. Ars is happy to do so and asks how much time will it take them to find the information, and to his surprise, Fam tells him to meet them within 5 days right here, and he will be ready with all the information. While Ars and others were dealing with Fam, Char had been stuffing food into her mouth like there is no tomorrow. They return soon, and Char remarks that they sure took too long to return from the washroom. Lisha tells them that they met the leader of Shadow, and managed to convince him to take up the job. Char is not pleased to hear that because she also wanted to see the leader. Just then, Fam comes there, acting like a femboy maid, and gives them some complimentary pancakes. Char praises the food, and Fam thanks her before cheerfully walking away. He gives Ars a wink as he leaves, and he thinks that if he had not seen his status, he would be completely fooled by that act. 5 days later, Ars and Ray visit the tavern again to find only Fan there. He reveals that the rest of his team is out doing some investigations. Ars asks him who investigated the thing he asked for, and Fam replies that he did it personally because it seemed interesting. Ars looks at his stats again, and notices that while his intelligence is too high, his command stat is mid. Fam then tells Ars that the investigation was successful, and he is glad to hear that. He wants to know how could Fam complete the investigation in such a short time. And he just smirks, saying that it is a trade secret. He then reveals the reason why Perrin County is not siding with the first prince. Fam gives Ars a document, which turns out to be an alliance paper with signatures and seals of all the nobles who have sworn loyalty to the younger son of the Duke. Perrin County's seal is also there, but Ray recognizes that there is also the seal of the Massa County, a territory with a large population. Ray explains that the Massa County has a very strong army, and whichever side they join will have a clear advantage in the war. The Massa County had pledged allegiance to the elder son Curran, but now that their name is on an alliance paper with the other side, things are bound to get complicated. Ray tells Ars that if this paper is genuine, it means that Massa County is betraying them. Ars asks why would they do so, but Fem can't give him an answer. Ray believes that at this rate, they are at a clear disadvantage, and if they attack Perrin, Massa will counterattack and defeat them. Ray then turns to Fam and asks him if the paper is real. He knows that Fam can't reveal his trade secret, but it is hard to believe that he got his hands on something so important no matter what kind of technique he used. Fam assures him that the paper came directly from the house of the Perrin country chief. As for his ability, he refuses to share it with anyone, no matter how much he trusts them. Ray accepts his words, and then apologizes for doubting him. But Fam doesn't mind it since it is a part of his job. Ars is super impressed by how cool Fam acts, and thinks of him as a real-life ninja. He takes out the money to pay him, but Fam says that there is no need to pay him because he was rude to Ars the last time. Ars tries insisting, but Fam is adamant. He tells the boy to consider it as an apology and an investment. Ars accepts his sentiment and thanks him for the job while promising to pay him more for the next mission. With that, he tells Ray that they should report the betrayal of the Massa County to the council immediately. As Lord Lumi receives the alliance paper, he first questions its authenticity. After Ars vouches that it is the real deal, Lord Lumi begins considering the seriousness of the situation. He tells his assistant to immediately send this message to their nearby allies. He then praises Ars, saying that if he had not worked so hard, they would have walked right into the enemy's trap. Ars tries acting modest, but then Lumi's assistant finds that there is something wrong with the alliance paper. He takes everyone to the office, where compares the signature of the Massa Chief on the alliance paper with another official letter they have. He points out to the clear differences in the seal and the signature, and remarks that the rest of the seals and signatures seem authentic. Ars is unable to realize what this means, so Lumi tells him that the Massa County has not joined the side of the younger son. He speculates that the Perrin County was tricked into believing the fake signature, and that is why they joined the side of the younger son. Ars and his friends are stunned as they hear this, and Lumi asks them to trust his assistant's judgment because he has got an eye for such details. Ars uses his appraisal skill on the assistant and finds that while he has high intelligence and observation stats, but that information does not cover his true abilities. After that, Ars wants to know that why would someone set up an obvious lie that will soon be found out. Ray believes that it was just a ploy to buy time, and even Rose agrees with him. Rose believes that the enemy is trying to use Perrin as a stepping stone by letting them face their forces first. That way, the main forces of the enemy would be unharmed even after the battle had passed. Lumi figures out another thing. He believes that the enemy forces are after the exploding monastones that are found only in the Perrin County. They are extremely rare and powerful magic stones that can be used to cast powerful spells and create powerful weapons. After hearing all this, Rose suggests that they should not invade Perrin. He explains that since Perrin was supposed to be on their side originally, if they fight it, they will be walking right into the trap of the younger son. He believes that their best course of action is to tell Perrin the truth and make it ally with them instead. Lumi thinks that it is a good idea, but he has sent numerous messages to Perrin, but has not gotten a single response yet. Well, the genius strategist has a plan for that too. First, Ars visits the leader of Massa County with the alliance paper, and he is shocked to see that someone forged his seal and signature. He swears that it is a fake because he signed no such document. Ars replies that they were already expecting that, and the fake alliance paper has been created by the younger son to trick Perrin into joining them. He requests Count Massa to write an official letter to tell Perrin that the signature is fake, but he is too furious, and decides to go there and clear the misunderstanding personally. A few days later, Ars visits the chief of Perrin with the alliance paper. The chief decides to inquire about the alliance paper later, and first asks him about the purpose of his visit. Ars says that his territory wants to join Perrin and support the second son after learning about the Massa County allying with them. The chief is excited to hear that, and Ars adds that even Lord Lumi plans to leave the first son's camp and join them. He says that small territories like them should always strive to be on the winning side, and the chief is impressed by his wisdom. He decides to accept Ars as an ally and walks up to him, saying that he will talk with the second son Basa about letting him join them. He reaches out for a handshake, but Ars says that he wants to confirm if the alliance paper is real before that. The chief tells him that Lord Basa gave it to him personally, so it has to be genuine. Ars then starts talking about how the Massa County was loyal to Lord Curran, and betraying him so suddenly seems out of character. He adds that even if they think that Lord Basa has the advantage in the upcoming war, choosing to ally with him will make them surrounded by enemies on all sides. Ars says that believing something without truly examining is a stupid thing, and the chief realizes that he never planned to join his side, and wrote the letter only to get here. He commands his soldiers to kill him, but Ray quickly jumps to action and stops the soldiers, giving them a death stare for even thinking about harming his master. Ars tells everyone to stop and assures the chief that they are not here to fight, but to tell him something very important. The Perrin chief doesn't believe him, but then Ars signals to the second guy with him, who takes off his cloak. It turns out that the guy is the leader of Massa County himself, and everyone freaks out on seeing him. Count Massa declares that the alliance paper is fake and he never signed it. He asks the Perrin chief if he still wishes to join Basa's side after knowing all this. He nervously says that after learning the truth he wants to side with Lord Curran, but he had already betrayed him before. He is worried that Lord Curran won't accept him now. Count Massa believes that his worries are legit. He then tells him that because their territory has a large population, it makes them strong, but it also means that there are more people to protect. He insists that any lord would want that, but it is Lord Perrin's fault that he was fooled and almost led his people to their demise. Count Massa then says that since it was Ars who informed him of this matter, he wants to leave the final decision in his hands. Ars freaks out because he was not ready for this, but after steadying himself, he says that it is only human to make mistakes. He says that he doesn't want to cut off Lord Perrin just because of one mistake. He smiles, adding that he is glad that they were able to resolve this matter without any violence. He tells Lord Perrin that this is his second chance, and asks him to join their side. The old man gratefully takes his offer, and promises to be useful to them in the war. Everyone is pleased by this solution, and Count Massa decides to head home, because there is nothing more for him to do here. He tells Ars to inform Lord Lumi about this too, and he promises to do so. He also thanks Count Massa for coming all the way here with them, and he replies that he doesn't need to be thanked. He credits Ars for this whole peaceful resolution, and says that brilliant people like him are the hope of their country. Ars is glad to hear the praise, but Count Massa concludes it by telling him that he needs to work a lot on his acting though. Afterwards, Ars visits his father's grave, and tells him all about the incident with the Perrin County. Soon, Ray and Rose come there, remarking that the winds have started to grow cold. Ars also realizes this, and says that it seems winter is coming. He then thanks Ray and Rose, saying that thanks to them, this whole matter ended without anyone getting hurt. He then walks to the edge of the cliff overlooking his territory. He says how the lords of Perrin and Massa County are both working hard to keep their people safe. After seeing them, Ars has also started dreaming of becoming a great lord. However, he knows that he cannot do anything without the help of his loyal allies. Ray promises to always be by his side and protect him no matter what kind of enemy he faces. Just then, a maid comes running to tell Ars that a guest has come. Moments later, Lord Lumi is at his location, and he first pays his respects to Raven, and apologizes for coming too late. Then, he reveals that Lord Curran wants to meet Ars. Ars freaks out on hearing that because there is too big level gap between them, and he says that he can't possibly meet someone as important as Lord Curran. Lumi replies that he reported the matter with Perrin to Curran, who seemed to be very interested in Ars. That is still too much for him to process, and he says that he will try to prepare himself mentally to see him. To his shock, he doesn't have any time to do that. Lumi tells Ars that they are going to depart right now, and he freaks out yet again. He says that he doesn't even have any gifts prepared and starts backing away, but Ray and Rose tell him to stop hesitating. They say that this is their chance to get ahead, so they must go. Ars decides to accept their advice, even though he is still too nervous. Soon, they ride in the carriage and Rose asks Ray if they are doing the right thing by leaving Char behind. Ray believes that taking everyone along is not feasible, and he plans to buy some nice gifts for her on their way back to make it up to her. They turn around and ask Ars if he is doing well, and he tells them that he is fine while sweating buckets. He still can't believe that a lowly rural lord like him has been summoned by Curran, who will become the duke of the territory soon in the future. Ars asks his friends what exactly is the occasion, and they tell him that it is a big party in which all the major nobles supporting Curran will be present. They claim that it is probably a party to boost everyone's morale before war, but Ars feels his morale drowning as he thinks about being in the midst of various big shots. Soon, they reach the trading city of Sempra, which is their destination. The scale and grandness of the city impresses everyone, and Ars hopes that one day he can make Lamberg as prosperous as this. He soon arrives at the Sempra castle along with Lord Lumi, trying to act confident. However, since everyone is staring at him because of his age, he quickly becomes a nervous mess again. He notices that Lumi is quite popular and respected among other nobles, and many people come to greet him. Lumi calls Ars too, introducing him to his peers. The heralds announce the arrival of Lord Curran, and everyone bows their heads to greet him. As Curran tells them to rise up, Ars looks at his status and finds that he is an S-rank knight with ambition, command and prowess well above 90. Ars is blown away by his high stats and believes that he is truly a person worthy of being their leader. However, that makes him recall that the second son Basa is said to be even more talented than Curran. Ars wonders how great Basa must be to overwhelm someone like Curran. He starts doubting that either Basa uses some other means to appear great, or someone is trying to lower Curran's reputation through rumors. Curran then addresses everyone, talking about how their Duchy of Mission is going through tough times because his younger brother Basa waged war on him, even though he is the rightful heir. Curran says that it is an unfortunate thing that the Empire has decided not to intervene with their matters, even when they are heading to a civil war. He declares that in the past 200 years, the Empire has become greatly corrupt and fallen off from glory. He says that the current Empire doesn't have long to last, and soon it will crumble down, giving way to a new era. Curran declares that when he wins the war against Basa, he will become the ruler of Mission and declare it as the Nation of Mission. Everyone is bowled over by his high ambitions, and wonder if he plans to declare Mission as a free nation after gaining independence from the Empire. Curran says that winning wars and building up a nation are not easy feats, but with the power and brilliance of everyone present in the room, he is certain that nothing can stop them. He throws his fist in the air, saying that they will surely be victorious, and everyone cheers with him. With that, Curran begins talking about the Lord of Lamberg, who achieved something amazing recently. He calls Ars to the center, and he freezes on hearing that. Ray and Rose wish him all the best and push him forward. And then Ars stumbles forward before greeting Curran. Curran calls him by his side so everyone can see his face. He then places his hand on Ars's shoulder, saying that he was the one who exposed Basa's shameless ploy and stopped the county of Perrin from joining his side. Everyone is surprised to hear that a mere kid did that, but Curran says that age is just a number, and the most important thing is the result. He says that Ars has already accomplished more than anyone else here, and asks everyone to applaud him. Lumi starts clapping, and one by one, everyone joins him. Ars is flustered now, and he can only thank everyone for this applause. The festivities start after that, and Ars is busy greeting other nobles who are curious about him now. Ray comes there with a plate full of food, but one look at his face, and he realizes that Ars is feeling nauseous after talking to too many strangers. He goes outside to get some fresh air, and leans on the railing, thinking about how socializing and politics suck. Just then, Curran appears next to him and asks if he is not feeling well. Ars freaks out on seeing him, and Curran says that he just wanted to have a nice chat with him. Curran claims that he has heard about Ars collecting some talented subordinates, and Lumi also talks very highly of him, which is quite rare. Ars gets flustered and says that he is nothing special without his subordinates, and then Curran asks him what he thinks about his subordinates then. Ars tried appraising all the nobles he met up with earlier, but he didn't find anyone particularly remarkable. Now, he wonders what should he tell the Lord and decides to come clean. He apologizes to Curran and says that there seemed to be no one amazing among the nobles who serve him. Curran sternly asks him if he thinks his subordinates are better than his, and Ars confidently replies that they are. Curran starts laughing at this, and then says that he is right. He looks at the nobles inside and says that they are good people who are serious and motivated about their goals. But they are missing something when it comes to ability. He says that winning a war with the human resources they have will be tough. Ars asks him to elaborate, and Curran says that there are many talented people on the other side. He says that even if they have a stronger army and more money, it is not meaningful if the leader is incompetent. Curran then says that this is the exact reason he is really happy about hearing the work Ars did. He says that he has great hopes from him, and Ars can only thank him. Curran then thinks for a while and tells Ars that if they win the war and he proves his worth, he will make him the Count of Kenner. This freaks out Ars, and he asks what will happen to Lord Lumi then. Curran says that he plans to give him even bigger title and territory after the war because he is one of his most trusted and talented subordinates. Ars still finds it hard to accept the promised reward, but Curran says that it is only right to reward someone who performs well. He begins leaving with that, and then turns around to ask Ars if he can have his subordinates. Ars refuses frantically, saying that they are all precious to him, and Curran laughs because he was expecting that. He then tells Ars to become a member of his war council along with his subordinates because he wants to hear their valuable opinion. Before that, he wants him to find some more talented people for him. He leaves with that, and Ars is full of determination to not let Curran down. On the other hand, Basa's two loyal subordinates inform him that their ploy in Perrin was discovered. The baldy named Tomas and the old man named Limas believe that they don't have to worry about anything. They claim that they have already extracted more than enough mana stones from Perrin. Also, they believe that they will surely win the war, because apart from Curran, his army has no talented commanders. They believe that their chances of losing are incredibly slim, but Basa is not satisfied with that. He declares that he only fights the battles he can surely win, and asks his two loyal vassals to make sure that their chances of winning reach 100% before the war starts. On that note, Basa asks Tomas about a woman called Mira that he wants to hire. Tomas first says that he has no idea where Mira is drinking herself to death right now, and second, he doesn't think that it is a good idea to hire her. He tells Basa that even though she may be talented, she is no longer useful. He says that no self-respecting nobleman would hire her, and Basa says that he hopes that Tomas is right about that. The next day, Ars returns to his house where he tells Char that they are going to join Lord Curran's war council. She expresses her amusement at this as she munches the snacks that Rose and Ray have brought for her. Ars then says that Curran also wanted him to find more talented people to serve him, and he asks Ray if he knows of any way to find new talented people. Ray believes that it will be best to leave this matter to Fam because he can get them all the information they need. The next day, they visit Fam and give him the job to find talented people. Ars says there won't be any penalty for finding someone who is not talented enough. Also, he promises to pay a bonus of 20 gold coins if he manages to find anyone really remarkable. Fam is really glad to hear these terms and accepts the job immediately. Ars and Ray leave the tavern after that, when suddenly a drunk hooded woman bumps into him. She helps him up, and even though his subordinates are angry, Ars easily forgives her. The woman then enters Fam's tavern, and he uses his best femboy voice to say that they are not open yet. However, the woman takes off her hood and says that she is not here to eat, but to get a job. She can even tell that Fam is a man, and she asks him to hire her. Just then, one of Fam's underlings comes there, and he recognizes the woman as Mira because they are old drinking buddies. Mira doesn't recognize him, but she wants her drinking buddy to help her find a job because she is dead broke and homeless right now. The man refuses to help her because she has already borrowed too much money from him and tries pushing her out. However, Fam says that he wants to hire Mira because she looks interesting, and they need more hands anyway. The man is shocked and asks Fam if he is certain about that, but he assures him that everything will be fine. Mira is glad that she is hired and begins working immediately. She messes up the orders right from the beginning, begins drinking without permission, and then spills the food on customers while trying to serve them. The man is fed up with her, but one cold gesture from Fam makes him change his stance. Fam and Mira eat together, and he tries getting her to reveal information about herself. Mira tells him that it is not a good thing for a man to inquire about a lady's past. She then says that since Fam is a cute femboy, she will tell him one thing about her. Mira says that she has a stupid younger brother and they both used to work for an old man, but he recently died or so she heard. Fam asks her about the old man, and Mira says that he was quite poor, but he was an interesting old man and had high dreams. Turns out that the old man she is referring to is the late Duke of Mission. The man refuses to believe this story, but Mira has Fam's complete attention now. She says that staying in just one place was boring, so she quit working for the old man and started traveling. She soon turned broke after spending all her money on alcohol, and that brought her here. Mira says that she doesn't mind being broke and homeless because it is more fun this way. Fam tells her that he knows of a more fun place to work, and asks her if she would like to go there. Later that day, Ars and his friends receive a letter from Fam to tell them that he has already found a talent. Just as they finish reading the letter, a maid tells them that they have a visitor who is interested in working here. They head out to meet the person Fam has sent, and everyone is doubtful because it has not even been one full day yet. They reach the gate and find that Fam has brought the drunk Mira with them. Ars remembers her as the drunk woman who bumped into him yesterday, and she laughs as she apologizes, even though she doesn't remember anything. She then asks Ars if he really is the Lord of Lamberg, and he affirms. His subordinates don't seem to be impressed by Mira, and even Ars wonders if she is really capable. He decides to appraise her stats first, and what he finds blows him away. Her intellect and ambition are both above 100, and she is an S-class strategist. Not only that, she is stronger than most elite knights, and Ars steps back, calling her a monster. Ars sees that Mira's command and prowess values are very high, and her intelligence is greater than even Rose. On top of that, her ambition is at 100, which is way above even Lisha. Ars can only keep staring at Mira with his mouth wide open, and she simply asks him if he will hire her or not. As Ars confirms her full legal name, Ray is shocked, because that is the name of the advisor of the former Duke. Mira confirms that she is the same person, and Char remarks that she is impressive. Ars still can't comprehend why the advisor of the former Duke would be here. When Rose suddenly tugs on his shirt, he seems cautious of Mira, and even Ray believes that Ars should not make her his vassal. He believes that she is a notorious person, because she was deported. Not only that, her younger brother Tomas is the right-hand man of Basa, so she is too closely connected with their enemies. Ray believes that there is a good chance that Mira is working for the enemies, and Ars begins sweating as he starts thinking that she might be a spy. However, Mira laughs and claims that her little brother is stupid, and she won't cooperate with him. Ray tells her to shut up, and then asks Ars to send the woman away. Ars keeps staring at Mira and Fam, and then he finally decides to accept Mira as his subordinate. Both Ray and Rose are shocked by his decision, but he confidently tells them that Mira has great abilities. He wants to trust that her high ambition does not make her an enemy, because her other abilities are so high that he is willing to take a risk. Mira feels a bit embarrassed that Ars trusts her, and he manages to convince his subordinates to accept her into the team. After a couple of days, Ray rushes into Ars' office with a complaint about Mira. She slept till noon instead of doing her duties, and kept drinking while others trained. When they confronted her, she told them that it was not a big deal and resumed drinking. Ray is furious at her, and he clearly tells Ars that he made a mistake when he picked her for the job. Just then, Rose also comes running into the office. He is on the verge of crying, and says that he doesn't want to study with Mira any longer. He says that instead of teaching him anything, she made him run, and even sent a flying dog to chase after him while she kept drinking in the corner. Rose cries, saying that exercising makes no sense for a thinker like him, and asks Ars to send Mira packing. Suddenly, the entire mansion is rocked by an explosion in the distance. Everyone is thrown into panic, and they rush outside, preparing for an enemy invasion. However, it turns out to be the work of Char, who has blasted a hole in the middle of the mansion pathway, with Mira coaxing her. Char seems to be getting along very well with Mira, and that creates another headache for Ars. He tries being optimistic about it by saying that at least it was not an enemy attack, but the other people of the mansion don't agree with him. The soldiers and servants have complaints about Mira's behavior that causes nothing but problems for them. She replies that this is who she is, and changing herself right now will be too hard for her. She turns to Ars to give his statement as he is the boss, and he tells her that she should try her best to work with everyone, or he will have to think about their complaints seriously. Mira is troubled by this because she doesn't want to leave this place, and that confuses Ars. He wonders what reason could Mira have to stay in a place where no one seems to like her. She tells him that after the late Duke, he is the only person to have accepted her so fully. However, she realizes that it is not enough, and she must get others to accept her as well. So she proposes a mock battle, because she is more effective on the battlefield than on the training ground. Ars says that it is too sudden, but Ray and others are raging to take up her challenge. Well, Ars has no choice but to accept the arrangement, and on the day of the mock battle, he he finds Lisha in the house as well. He had written about Mira and the mock battle in his letters, and Lisha's curiosity brought her here to see it. Mira says that she has heard a lot about the cute fiancé, and Lisha replies that she has also heard a lot about the idle drunk strategist from her fiancé's letter. Ars tries to clear things with Mira that he wasn't badmouthing her, but she doesn't even mind. She hugs him tightly while flirting with him, and Lisha gives him a smile that clearly says that he is screwed. The flustered Ars somehow starts explaining the rules of the mock battle. There are 2 teams with 50 soldiers each, and they will engage in a battle in the forest till the sun sets. They will use blunt wooden swords to fight and defeat the other side, and whoever defeats more soldiers at the end will win. Capturing the enemy leader or defeating all enemy soldiers will mean an instant victory. Ars tells everyone that if they get hit in the chest or head, it will count as a fatal strike, and they should stop moving then. He also prohibits Char from using fire magic. Instead, he gives her magic potions with light and sound magic properties, and tells her to use them wisely. After that, it is time for the division of teams, and everyone wants to be on the opposite team as Mira. They even decide to send the newbies to her team so that she loses and is fired. Ars is worried now, but Mira is not even fazed in the slightest and says that everything will work out. This pisses off everyone else, and their opinion of Mira goes even lower, and Ars realizes that it may have been a foolish decision to agree to this mock battle. Soon, the preparations for the mock battle are complete, and the 2 teams enter the forest, while the spectators cheer them on from neutral ground. Ray leads one team with Char, Rose, and the experienced soldiers. Ray believes that the strength of their family comes from unity, and it is better to remove people like Mira who harm that unity. Char, on the other hand, believes that Mira is quite amazing. Rose has completely different reasons to reject her. He feels that Lisha and Char are already overbearing enough, and adding Mira to the mix would be disastrous. The second team has Ars as their leader, and he fails to motivate his soldiers in Mira's presence. As always, Mira doesn't worry about anything. Instead, she praises the talents of Ray and Char, and asks Ars how did he manage to find people like them. Ars says that it just happened, and they should focus on how to beat them right now. Mira believes that it is impossible to do so with the newbies in their team, and everyone gets irritated by her words, especially because they know she is speaking the truth. Ars tries to stop her from lowering everyone's morale, but Mira assures him that despite the shortcomings of their troops, they will win this battle. Her vibe suddenly changes as she claims that they can use the inexperienced soldiers as a weapon that will take the enemy by surprise. Soon, the battle begins, and Team Ars begins marching towards Team Ray. Rose informs him that they have set up traps in the way, and as soon as the enemy troops come in contact with them, they can locate them. After that, Ray addresses the troops and says that the enemy team won't be able to defeat them using normal tactics, so they may try to use surprise attacks to throw them off. Therefore, he is going to use the most basic strategy to attack them head-on. He decides to separate his team into 2 units. They will march ahead with some distance between them, and if the second unit led by Rose is attacked by the enemies, he should use the sound magic to call the first team to his aid. This way, they can use their superior abilities and experience to defeat them quickly. He gives his troops a pep talk, and then begins leading them, and just then, someone steps on the trap they laid out, and alerts them. Ray leads some troops to the direction of the trap, and finds a newbie wizard from the other team there. The wizard is here to surrender and join his team instead, and offers to reveal Mira's strategy in exchange for accepting him. Mira has guessed that Ray has divided his troops into 2, and she plans to use it to her advantage. First, she will create some ruckus by saying that real enemies have attacked them, and by doing this, she will lead Ray and others into a trap. Then, she would use her full force to defeat the remaining soldiers of his team along with the commanders. By doing this, she would ensure that they win while keeping the casualties low. The wizard asks Ray to accept him into his team now, but he refuses. He believes that no matter how skilled Mira is at convincing others, Ars won't agree to such a stupid plan. The wizard immediately changes his tone and tells Ray that he is completely right. In fact, Mira sent him here on purpose to give this fake information to him. But he just can't stand her. He knows that it is wrong to betray a fellow soldier, but he believes that is for the sake of Lord Ars. That is why he is going to tell Ray about Mira's real battle plan. The wizard tells them that Mira plans to trap them in a certain location, and then launch an attack on them from both sides. He asks Ray to come to the location and pretend to be caught in the trap. The wizard has to use sound magic to inform Mira that the plan was successful, but if he doesn't do that, Ray can change the game from there. Ray accepts the sincerity of the wizard and his suggestions, and asks the wizard to hand over his staff as a precaution. As soon as the wizard does it, Rei orders the soldiers to arrest him, and they find another staff hidden in his cloak. Rei gives him a death stare, and forces the wizard to reveal his true plan. He was going to trick Rei's team into coming to the designated location, and then use the second staff to alert his allies, so that they could take him by surprise. Now that he cannot do that, Rei decides to use this chance to go behind the enemy troops, and finish them off with a quick surprise attack. He leads the troops behind ours and the team very quickly, and then tells everyone to get into position as they spot them. On his command, his troops launch a surprise attack on the standing enemy troops. But they are hit with a grand Uno reverse, because they were just armors hanging on sticks. Mira and Ars are there, and she commends the wizard for his Oscar-worthy acting skills. She mocks Rei, saying that he is so logical, that predicting what he thinks is super easy. However, he thinks that this is a great chance for him to capture Ars as the commander of the enemy forces and end the battle quickly. Well, Mira just puts Ars on her back and starts running away, and Rei commands everyone to chase after them. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for part 12, and make sure to check out this brand new anime about a lonely orphan who marries his childhood crush and starts training to become a spy.